Exchange and transport in animals. Transporting substances. Transport substances into organisms which are important for their life, and to transport waste products out of the organism to stop them from accumulating. So in photosynthesis, plants need to be really specialized so they can take in carbon dioxide and excrete oxygen, which is a waste product for photosynthesis, while at the same time being able to take in dissolved nutrients and mineral molecule and water from soil and air. Animals have advanced systems to remove waste like kidneys. Kidneys remove waste like urea and excess ions. This is important because excess urea isn't removed, it builds up in the body and becomes toxic. Excess carbon dioxide can build up and dissolve in blood, causing it to become acidic, leading to acidosis. Exchange surface and surface area to volume ratio. Specialized exchange surfaces allow transport of substances from one area to another from outside to inside the organism. Exchange surfaces have short diffusion distances and a large surface area. Exchange surfaces examples. 1. Root hair cells of plants are specialized to take up water and nutrient from the soil because they have large surface areas and thin walls, meaning diffusion across wall into plant can happen quickly. 2. Walls of nephrons in kidney, which are thin walls and have a large surface area, as they are needed to efficiently absorb substances like water and glucose. 3. Lungs are specialized as they transfer oxygen to the blood and carbon dioxide transfer to lungs. This happens across surface of millions of air sacs called alveoli, which are covered in tiny blood vessels called capillaries which supply blood. 4. Small intestines have projections called villi. Digested food absorbed over membrane of cells into bloodstream. 5. Gills are where gas exchange takes place in fishes. Water that has oxygen passes through mouth and over gills. Each gill has plates called gill filaments, and on these there's gill lamellae, which is where diffusion of oxygen into the blood and diffusion of carbon dioxide into water happens. Blood flows in one direction while water flows in other. 6. Leaves of plants have a lot of tissues to allow gas exchange. Carbon dioxide diffuses through stomata for photosynthesis, while oxygen and water vapor move out through them. Stomata controlled by guard cells, which change size of stomata based on how much water plant gets. Guard cells swell with lots of water and make stomata larger. Large surface area. More particles move through so faster rate of diffusion. Thin membrane means short diffusion pathway, allowing process to happen faster. Having efficient blood supply, being ventilated, so steep concentration gradient, so diffusion happens faster. Measure how well organisms or cell transport substances is surface area to volume ratio. This is size of surface area of organism compared to volume. Calculated by finding volume and surface area and writing ratio in smallest whole number. If this is large organism is less likely to need specialized exchange surfaces and transport system because rate of diffusion is sufficient in supplying and removing gases. Single-celled organisms use diffusion to transport molecules into their body from air. This is because they have large surface area to volume ratio. Because of low metabolic demands, diffusion across surface of organism is enough to meet needs. Multicellular organisms. Surface area to volume ratio is small, so they can't rely on diffusion alone. Surface and organ systems have number of adaptations that allows molecules to be transported in and out of cells. Large organisms have small surface area to volume ratio because they have large volume but small surface areas. Smaller organisms have larger surface area to volume ratio as they have large volume relative to surface area. Greater surface area to volume ratio means better adapted organism is for diffusion. If organism increases its surface area, it can take more nutrients and expel more waste products more efficiently. Adaptations of alveoli. Alveoli are small air sacs in lungs. They're surrounded by blood vessels with thin walls, allowing gas exchange between lungs and blood. Alveoli are adapted for this to take place in a number of ways. They are very small and arranged in groups, creating a large surface area for diffusion to take place. Capillaries give large blood supply, maintaining concentration gradient. Walls of alveoli are very thin, meaning there's a short diffusion pathway. Blood structure and function. Blood made up of plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. 1. Plasma. Liquid that carries components in blood, which is red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, glucose, amino acids, carbon dioxide, urea, hormones, proteins, antibodies, and antitoxins. 2. Red blood cells carry oxygen molecules from lungs to all cells in body. They have a biconcave disc shape, gives a large surface area. They have no nucleus, allowing more room to carry oxygen. They have red pigment called hemoglobin, which binds to oxygen and forms oxyhemoglobin. 3. White blood cells are part of immune system, which is body's defense against pathogens. Pathogens are microorganisms that can produce diseases. They have nucleus. There are 3 number of types. First is the ones that produce antibodies. They're small proteins that clump them together against microorganisms. Second is those that engulf and digest pathogens. Third is those that produce antitoxins to neutralize toxins produced by microorganisms. 4. Platelets help blood clot form at site of wound. Clot dries and hardens to form scab, which allows new skin to grow underneath while preventing microorganisms from entering. Small fragments of cells. No nucleus. Without them, cuts would result in excessive bleeding and bruising. Structure and function of blood vessels. Body has 3 different types of blood vessels. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Layers of muscle and walls make them strong to withstand the high-pressure blood pumped by the heart. Elastic fibers allow them to stretch. Veins carry blood via the heart, so towards it. Lumen is wide to allow low-pressure blood to flow through it, and they have valves which prevent the backflow of blood, so it goes in the right direction. Capillaries allow blood to flow close to cells to allow substances to move between them. 1 cell thick, so short diffusion pathway, and permeable walls, so substances can move across them. Heart and circulatory system structure and function. Heart is organ and circulatory system, which carries oxygen and nutrients to every cell in the body and removes waste products. Heart pumps blood around the body in double circulatory system, so there are 2 circuits. The first is deoxygenated blood flows into right atrium and then into right ventricle, which pumps it to the lungs to undergo gaseous exchange. The second is oxygenated blood flows into left atrium and then into left ventricle, which pumps oxygenated blood around the body. Heart has muscular walls, so the heart can contract to form a heartbeat. Left side of the heart has thicker muscles because blood needs to be pumped all around the body and not just to the lungs like the right ventricle. For chambers that spare it oxygenated blood from deoxygenated blood. Valves make blood flow in one direction and not backwards. Coronary arteries cover heart and provide it with oxygenated blood. How blood flows through the heart. 1. Blood flows into right atrium through vena cava and left atrium through pulmonary vein. 2. Atrium contracts, forcing blood into ventricles. 3. Ventricles then contract, pushing blood in right ventricle in a pulmonary artery to be taken to lungs, and blood in left ventricle to aorta to be taken around body. When this happens, valves close to make sure blood doesn't flow backwards. Natural resting heart rate is 70 beats per minute and is controlled by cells in right atrium that act as pacemakers, and it's called the sinoatrial node, and it stimulates small electrical impulses which pass as waves across heart muscles, causing it to contract. Without this, the heart wouldn't pump fast enough to deliver oxygen needed by the body. Artificial pacemaker used if person has irregular heartbeat, and it's an electrical device that makes a signal causing heartbeat at normal speed. Cellular respiration. Respiration happens in every cell and body and is process of transferring energy from glucose, so living processes can happen. All living things undergo respiration. It's exothermic because energy is transferred to environment. Happens aerobically, so with oxygen, or anaerobically, meaning without oxygen. Anaerobic and aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration uses oxygen and produces more energy. Most reactions that need aerobic respiration need mitochondria. Glucose and oxygen produce carbon dioxide and water. Anaerobic respiration happens when there's not enough oxygen and doesn't make much energy. Only used as last resort, like when doing intense exercise. In animals, glucose is converted to lactic acid, and in plants or yeast, the glucose is converted to ethanol and carbon dioxide, and this is used to make bread or alcohol. Core practical. Investigate rate of respiration in living organism. Build respirometer, which measures effective temperature on oxygen consumption of small organisms. 1. Get a small organism. 2. Place 5 centimeter cube of soda lime into test tube. 3. Put gauze on top, an organism on top of that. 4. Attach three-way tap, capillary tube, and syringe to the test tube. Plug test tube with stopper on second test tube. 5. Insert small amount of colored liquid into capillary tube. 6. Turn three-way tap to allow air to enter test tube for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, close three-way tap. 7. Record how far colored liquid moves against scale. Measuring cardiac output. Measure how well heart is working by using this formula. Cardiac output equals stroke volume multiplied by heart rate. Stroke volume is volume of blood given out when heart contracts once, and heart rate is beats per minute.